All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And hello, all. Happy New Year. If you're just jumping in, it is Ligon Albert in the mix. Come on, everybody. It's a new year. Albert, who is the commissioner of sports on this show, as well as being producer, is now visible on camera. It's very exciting. I think it ushers in a new age.
What?
And, of course, Kim is here daily with news and
Kim,
contributions of all sorts. We have quite the show. John Rothmann, of course, visits on Wednesdays. We'll talk about the politics of the presidential election, what I think will be some serious themes running through the presidential election, and maybe even a way, a strategy in some of these swing states to produce a victory that would at least ensure Democrats win. Sadly, we're a two-party scene. I know Democrats are not perfect and far from it, in fact, but the alternative is pretty scary right now. Anyway, I'll get with Rothmann on that. News of San Francisco today also.
What?
And a throwdown in Hollywood as well. So I'll get to all of these things as we continue. I'm waiting for my computer to reboot, and it is taking a long time. I put my credibility glasses on to, again, Albert, you're more techie than I am, but it appears this is an Apple computer. It's downloading the latest software, and it would appear that it is, it may be quite the lengthy wait.
Yeah, the Apple OS update and the Windows update, both of them take days. It feels like it takes like forever just for it to come back.
Did it ask you first, or did it just go off on its own little merry way?
Oh, no, I started it last night.
Oh,
and then it's, I had to clear a bunch of space on the computer to make it possible. You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
You know, we talked about pre-show that I had to play that here, and I can't find it.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big
Albert,
deal.
Have you tweeted at least that the show's on the air, please?
I have not, but I did have the links that you asked for earlier, so I'm standing by with those.
That's the
something.
classic Albert shimmy right there. No, sir, I haven't, but I have all those links that you wanted, and we talked about. I've got them all ready to go, sir. Yes, but all I'm saying is that, Kim, there are people who dream of wealth, of fame, of freedom to do whatever they want in their lives.
Sure.
There are those who dream of peace all over the world. Maybe we all share a little piece of that dream.
That's right.
I dream of not having to ask effing Albert every single time if he is tweeted and always hearing, I haven't. All I'm saying is,
why are you yelling? I don't know what the hell they do it for.
My dream is Albert tweets so I don't have to ask him to tweet.
Why are you yelling?
Why does Albert have to tweet? Why don't you tweet?
Well,
I'm
it's
just
interesting. Let me answer
just
that question. Let me answer that question with another question.
This is getting worse for me, Kim. We just
yeah.
Trying to have your back, Albert. Come on now.
Well, we pay Albert very well, and we pay the producers very well, and honestly, we pay everybody very well on this show, and it's not a big deal to tweet. Okay.
Why are you yelling?
So all I'm trying to say is, my dream is a simple one, Kim. Don't get me started on you. Okay, Kim?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
All I'm trying to say is, Kim, why don't you do it, Mark? Why don't you do it? Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm doing everything else on this GD show.
Yeah. That's
why are you
not
yelling?
true.
Anyway, this is an awkward way to start the new year, everyone.
Really
and I'm
is.
sorry.
Kim, how are you?
All I'm saying is,
Festivus airing of grievances.
respectfully, Mark, that's a lame dream, says Jason.
Yes, it is.
How dare you, Jason? Don't make me turn on you, Jason.
The whole world peace thing, you had me there. I was like, oh, that's nice. Good, yeah.
Leave Albert alone, someone says. Susan says that.
Yeah, leave him alone.
I don't know.
Right on, Susan.
Everybody's got your back. Got your back. How dare you? All right. Anyway, so we've got a very good show, and stop picking on Albert, says Square. Look. Anyway, Albert is here, and we are glad that he's here.
Albert, thank you.
And Lori, I think I've now recategorized Lori. She is still someone I love because she is she's in the chat first thing in the morning. She's a supporter of the show. I think she was a school teacher, which I always have a soft spot for. But she kind of is a little bit of a pot stirrer, and I'm putting her in the pot stirrer category. And here she is. At this point, if I were Albert, I'd always say no, and then send MT a screenshot of the tweet that shows the time of 10 minutes before the show starts. Poor Mark. Lori is stirring the pot.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's a pot that might need stirring.
Are you paying your staff the new minimum wage, asks Phineas. Isn't it $100 an hour in California now to keep up with inflation? Well, it's interesting you should say this, Phineas, because in the show today, I will talk about the new laws in California, and among them, a new minimum wage. You're absolutely right that we in California pay workers more than they do in many other parts of the country. I believe actually only in New York, in Manhattan, and the 5 boroughs, do they even come near our minimum wage. If you look elsewhere in the country, they don't come anywhere near our minimum wage in California. But, of course, the cost of living in California is quite high. So, I don't know if you saw this, just speaking of California and San Francisco. This is the New York Times today. I get the old school paper delivered because I'm old. And I do enjoy, looking through the pages. And this is, again, front page, is our darling Heather Knight. Can you see this with this story?
What's the headline?
Now, a big bet. Can you read it? A big bet on a pyramid brings signs of a revival to San Francisco.
Okay. What kind of pyramid?
Well, that's the idea.
Transamerica Building?
The Transamerica Building. But it's really a story about betting on the district that has been so hard hit, the financial district and the business district in San Francisco. It's a bet on that district to come back. Now, they note in the piece it might take 10 years for that to happen. But they also say, and when I say they, it's Heather Knight who wrote the piece. And I say that because she used to be kind of a great columnist for the Chronicle, giving you a sense of what was happening in the city of San Francisco and the Bay Area, but particularly the city of San Francisco. And she points out that it might take 10 years, but there are real signs of growth in San Francisco, and it's taken investment. And so it's just interesting that we talk about California, we talk about the minimum wage, and it was cool this morning to wake up to that on the front page. So, Albert, your first big decision as producer of this show in the new year, even as you tweet, should I do the new laws? Would you like to do Law and Disorder with the new laws? I also have that Ian Ziering video from Hollywood. Things got crazy with him and these mini bikers.
Yeah, I think we already teased the laws, so might as well just go over the new laws. Then we can get to that.
So are you ready with Law and Disorder, sir?
I am right now, yeah.
Albert, thank you.
Here it is, Law and Disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
Pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care.
are represented by 2 separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
New laws in effect in California, as you know, in the new year. Many of them are unlikely to make much difference in your life. We have a state bat. Thanks to
we needed that.
Also,
that's what I want my state lawmakers to be busy doing.
Well, Kim, I mean, it's a thing that they had time to do in between the serious laws. Yeah. They also passed a new law that memorializes, or in other ways honors might be a better way to put it, the official state mushroom. in California.
I really appreciate that. I didn't really need the real business of the state done.
The golden chanterelle mushroom is the official mushroom.
Larger impact.
A larger hit was not mentioned yet. It's still hoping. The cannabis plant is still hoping. Other laws that may affect you more prominently, you can sell an ADU like a condo now. Assembly Bill 1033 will allow Californians to buy and sell accessory dwelling units, right? ADUs, granny flats. They'll let you sell them now as condominiums. That means property owners can construct an ADU on their land and sell it separately. The goal is to give more people the opportunity to own their own homes in a state with, obviously huge shortages of housing.
That's interesting because you would think it would, I don't know how they get around zoning and selling off plots of your land. Yeah.
So you would have voted against it, Kim? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I need a little more information on that one, I think.
I see.
Kim, how are you?
All right. It's going to be harder to find gas-powered yard tools in California. I say bravo on that, man. I can't believe the leaf blower horror that exists unfettered in California and beyond. But I mean, I just lived with it it's pollution in every way. It's so loud. It's so polluting. It's like breathing next to an exhaust pipe. And then the actual process of blowing the leaves is absurd. I mean, blowing the leaves, the dust, it all goes up into the air. It's every way that you figure this, it's effed up. And yet it exists. There are supposed to be laws on the book against it, but they're not enforced. Anyway, the new law is not so much directed against leaf blowers, although they're included. But they're trying to phase out the sale of these small gas-powered engines, including those in leaf blowers. But lawnmowers, weed trimmers, chainsaws, they're all included. So beginning this year, they are making it harder to find those gas-powered tools. They're going to phase out equipment by requiring that those made this year, 2024, and later, be powered with electricity or another clean energy source. Again, I say bravo. You could pay a smaller security deposit now if you're a renter. You know how when you're a renter, you find some unit, you love it. It's a little more expensive than you wanted to pay, but you're excited. And then all of a sudden they say, all we need is first and last month and the security deposit. Whoa. I'm going to have trouble making the rent. I will make it, but now you need first, last, and security. It's a huge upfront cost. So Assembly Bill 12 limits the amount the landlords can charge for security deposits to no more than 1 month's rent. So you've got that. Before that, landlords could charge 2 months of rent for a security deposit. But that made it hard for a lot of people in high-rent cities to find affordable housing. How do you feel about that one, Kim?
Albert, thank you. Kim, how are you?
I feel good about that. I like people to be able to move more easily about the world and to get into places so they don't have to have saved up, 6 months worth of savings in order to move. Yeah, that's good.
So Kim approves of that. Yeah. By the way, if you're a landlord, and as you know, I don't think that landlords are necessarily evil people. There's this sort of mythology around landlords that they're evil. The evil landlord always want to rent. Landlords are ma and pa often. They're private citizens who put together money to buy a place, and and a good landlord is terrific. I mean, worth their weight type thing. So one of the ways that landlords get screwed in that is that people tend to not pay the last month's rent. So when they're moving out, they go, well, you already have my 2 months rent. I paid it up front. You have my last month. And the reality is that was for damages to the unit. That's security deposit. That's so that when you move out and I need to repaint or whatever, depending on whatever the lease agreement is, you have that covered in that security deposit. But by the person going, well, I've already paid it. and I've given you 30 days, you don't really have time to litigate it or otherwise adjudicate it. And as a result, you end up getting screwed as a landlord. So that's the argument against. Adjudicated is a ding word. Adjudicated. You may get more paid sick days. Workers are going to get at least 5 sick days under Senate Bill 616, an increase from the earlier minimum of 3 paid sick days. Albert is already not feeling well. Labor unions lobbied heavily for this. And of course, employers talk about the increased cost, and some cities already require more paid sick time, including LA, for example. Employers in LA have to give you 6 paid days of sick leaves no matter what. You may get a raise, as you know, was noted in the chat. Minimum wage in California rising by 50 cents. It's now $16 an hour. And again, there are cities in California, LA among them, that already have the higher minimum wage. And they're going up. Fast food workers statewide are going to see their wages rise to $20 an hour, which is worth it when you think about, all the crap they have to deal with. People are so rude. We have stories almost every day on this show about how fast food workers have to take so much smack talk from the public.
We had one yesterday about some assault of a Chipotle worker, right?
Absolutely insane, isn't it? It's just insane. So,
sometimes they skimp on like the guac. You're already paying extra for the guac at Chipotle, and then they give you just a little bit.
That is true.
Albert, thank you.
You may want to bring that up. Senate Bill 617 next year.
Yeah.
The guacamole clause. Right. By the way, the hospitals and large healthcare facilities already have a minimum wage, as you know, that's well above $20 an hour. It's like $23 an hour. You can take time off for a miscarriage now. Companies with at least 5 employees will have to allow workers to take at least 5 days off to grieve a reproductive loss, as it's called. Your boss can't ask you whether you've used weed, everybody. Come on. Mm-hmm. I don't have the weed smoker drop, Albert. It's on my machine that's dead, so it's going to be replaced this week, I hope, but you'll have to, if you have it, you can run it. But anyway, your boss can't ask you whether you've used weed. Employers can't ask workers or job applicants about their prior cannabis use. This is Senate Bill 700.
Where are my weed smokers at?
It should be Senate Bill 420, but it is not.
Can you ask your boss if he's doing weed?
I believe it goes both ways. You're not allowed to.
Doesn't anybody been a weed?
Yeah. The information about marijuana use not allowed to be used. And any information from an applicant's criminal record can't be used to discriminate against them either. Assembly Bill 2188, employers can't discriminate against workers for using cannabis while off duty and away from work. Employers can still prohibit workers from being high on the job, and the law does not apply to federal contractors or people in the construction business. Kids are going to have to learn what in the new year? It was going away and it's coming back. Anybody?
Cursive.
Cursive is right. Mm-hmm. Assembly Bill 446 requires that handwriting instruction in elementary schools will include cursive writing, everyone. That's a skill that has fallen out of practice among a generation growing up typing on cell phones and laptops. Albert, do you know how to write cursively?
Unfortunately, yeah, because in 6th grade, I had a core teacher who required everything to be in cursive, so
you
I think
like
my
someone
generation
who would
might have been the last.
Good penmanship, though. Am I right about that, Albert, or not?
No, not very bad penmanship.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Did you say cursively?
Yeah.
Oh, is that a word?
I don't know. I mean,
I'll side with the host and I'll just ding that for him.
Maybe you should
Google it.
Yeah, Google it and see
Making
about
it
that.
up now. All right.
I mean, sure, you can. It's a knowable thing, cursively.
Okay.
Google it.
Well, I mean, before you say making it up, maybe you should.
I'm just saying.
I mean, I may have to. Is that a word?
I wouldn't be surprised that the law was just to actually have people write again. I think everything's just digital and online.
Yeah.
It actually is a word.
Of course it is, Kim. God, I can't believe this, Albert.
Adverb, it means to write in a cursive manner.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I knew this. I don't understand.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Yeah,
why are you yelling?
She fills in for 3 weeks, and all of a sudden she thinks, every utterance of hers is perfect, and every utterance of mine is bad.
Why are you yelling?
Who says
What
that?
the hell is going on in the United States of America?
She's lost her mind, Albert. That's what I'm telling you.
Kim, how are you?
I'm just saying. She's kind of losing it. Kim is. Anyway.
Yeah.
On the road, as we finish out, drivers are going to face a new way of getting busted for speeding. San Jose, Oakland, Los Angeles, Glendale, Long Beach, and San Francisco. Say it ain't so. One of the things I loved about California is going away. One of the things I loved was there were no speed cameras here. Now, all those places I mentioned will be allowed to install speed cameras. They'll start near schools, and they'll start on streets with a lot of car crashes in areas known for street racing. But it's not going to end there. Soon we'll be just drenched in these speed cameras. They'll be everywhere.
Yep.
Drivers can be fined $50 for speeding 11 to 15 miles an hour over the limit. Charges can rise to $500 for going more than 100 miles an hour. And then, as you know, I think it's been talked about, but I'll mention it again, cops cannot ask you the one question that they always ask when they pull you over.
Excuse me, sir. Do you know why I've stopped you today?
Exactly. Do you know why I've stopped you?
My bad. I'm sorry.
That's right. I don't know, but I'm sorry. Here's all my stuff. Here's my paperwork. So they have to give a reason for traffic stops when they stop you. That's the effort they're making to avoid these pretextual stops that cops make, to essentially use a minor infraction as a basis to pull someone over and investigate other, bigger situations. It's racially based. Frankly, I think it was viewed as something that could be used in a biased faction racially. That said, the downside to that is that there have been a lot of pretty substantial discoveries along the way when you do pull somebody over for a minor infraction. So it's offset by that, but whatever. Those are the new restrictions, and they won't be allowed to pretextually pull you over with why I stopped you type thing.
Yeah.
Albert, do I have time? I don't know if I do for the Ian Ziering thing.
I think we have just enough time. Yep.
Okay. Big, this would fall into the disorder category of law and disorder. Big story out of the streets of Hollywood with Ian Ziering. You know who that is, Kim?
Yeah, from was it 90210?
Yeah, 90210, exactly. Ian was with his 12-year-old daughter driving through the streets of Hollywood, and I guess somebody on one of those mini bikes hit his car.
This is really scary.
He was also in Sharknado, as is pointed out by Julie. Yeah, it is scary because of the way it unfolded. They all kind of ganged up on him when he got out of the car. Now, I don't know, you could argue he shouldn't have gotten out of the car, but on the other hand, they hit his car. Why shouldn't you be able to get out of it? I mean, it's the streets of Hollywood. It's not the streets of, Mumbai or, again, this is not the third world. Let's take a look at the video. Albert's got it for you here from TMZ, obviously. So that's him in the gray SUV. And he gets out and they come to blows, the guy who hit his car and is smack talking him, I guess. And now the other ones, now she's a woman in that pink, and then he gets sucker punched by the guy in blue. Then he starts running across the street because he's being mauled by all of these mini bikers. And I mean, he's fighting off like three of these people at once. Then he runs and they give up the fight. It's really scary.
Do you think they targeted him to rob him and then swarmed him, or was it just a road rage kind of accident thing? What happened?
I think it was road rage. I really do. I don't think that
Meanwhile, his daughter remained in the car, right?
Probably the safest place to be.
Probably.
He got worked pretty well. Look at this. He got hit pretty hard. I mean, it's pretty brutal. It's no wonder he ran.
Look at him running with all those people hanging off of him.
Yeah, I mean, he got hit in the face, a couple of clean shots. It was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Cops were nowhere to be found, which is amazing because there are some cops around Hollywood. As you know, I would have a heavy police presence there. I would have a heavy police presence in any big tourist area around San Francisco and in Los Angeles. But now today, Albert, didn't he release a statement of some kind?
Horrible.
I believe he had a statement essentially saying that this was local hooliganism. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, hooliganism is a ding word. I can barely say it. While stuck in traffic, my car was approached aggressively by one of these riders, leading to an unsettling confrontation, he said on Instagram. He got out of his car to assess any damage when the situation escalated into a physical altercation. I'm relieved to report that my daughter and I are both completely unscathed, but the incident, unscathed is a ding word, although I will tell you that it is the wrong word he's used there. Unscathed is not the word he wanted. He wants to say unharmed. He was actually scathed, right? It was it left him emotionally shook up. It left them both emotionally shook up, so he's not unscathed. But we still ding it because it is a SAT-type word. But the incident has left me deeply concerned about the growing boldness of such groups, he goes on, who disrupt public safety and peace. How old is Ian Ziering, I ask you in the chat? How old is Ian Ziering? I don't have the, sadly, I don't think let me see, I might have it. I might have the millionaire music. Anybody on, how old is Ian? There it is. How old is Ian Ziering? He was in 90210. He was kind of hunky. 60, says Tom.
Yeah, that would be my guess. 60.
60. 59 said somebody. I can't. 55 says Dave. 59 says Barry. 59 says Wes. 53 says Pauline. 54 says Julie. That's my guess would have been about 56 maybe. 57 says Stephen. How old is Sharknado star and former 90210 star Ian Ziering? I mean, he fought off like Reacher. He fought off 3 of those mini bikers.
That's right.
How old is he?
If anybody was considering Ian Ziering for an action thriller role, now they know he can pull it off.
Jennifer says 50. The answer is 59. Yeah, a couple of people had it in the chat. That is Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on the Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Do us a favor, smash the like button like a boss.
With your iron rod.
Damn straight. Smash it with your iron rod. Give us a thumbs up. Life is good. We're going to have a good year. We're going to navigate all the crap of the world, and we're going to do it right here every day. If you're new to the show, we've migrated over from radio. KGO Radio is the big blowtorch of San Francisco. Across Northern California, Nevada, all of California, the powerful KGO signal. That station went away. We brought it over here. The people you see, Albert, Kim, myself, we were there at that station. And we're excited to welcome you into this hybrid. It's both radio and a bit of the visual medium here on YouTube. So that's where we are.
It with your iron rod.
One of our regular contributors on Wednesdays is a brilliant historian and political analyst. He is John Rothmann. He will join us next. So we'll get to that as we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards. So beautiful and so tasty. That's good. Let's start with the trip to Eagle Pass, Texas. About 60 Republican lawmakers are visiting the southern border in Texas today. House Speaker Mike Johnson leading the charge to the group in their visit to Eagle Pass. Republicans plan to make border security problems a major issue in the upcoming elections. A list of more than 170 names connected to the Jeffrey Epstein Ghislaine Maxwell sex trafficking conspiracy could be released by a Manhattan judge any day now. Who will be on the list? It was supposed to be released today. Now, maybe not. The documents stem from one victim's 2015 lawsuit in which she claims she was recruited by Maxwell to have sex with Epstein when she was underage. This list could illuminate which prominent figures continued to associate with Epstein and his former girlfriend and convicted accomplice Maxwell after he was convicted in 2008 in Florida of procuring sex from a minor.
I'll ding illuminate. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll take the ding. Sad situation in the East Bay. Developments, though, today in the killing of this undercover Oakland police officer. Several people believed to be involved or behind bars this morning. They were arrested over the weekend, and the Police Officers Association confirms U.S. Marshals took in a key suspect yesterday at a hotel in Livermore. The police department isn't releasing much else, but officers were heard over dispatch radio saying that the shooter is in custody. Tuan Lee was in an unmarked car on Friday when he was gunned down while responding to a burglary at a cannabis business near Jack London Square in Oakland. A private memorial is set to be held on Tuesday.
So sad. Yeah.
It really is. Stay safe and avoid traveling to California's mountains today. Yeah, that is the message because of all the snow from the authorities and the weather experts for the northern part of the state. A storm warning is in effect through 10 p.m. for a huge chunk of the Sierra Nevada, as well as western Plumas County and Lassen Volcanic National Park. Those areas are expected to see up to 29 inches of snow by this morning. Major freeways could be covered, as well as Interstate 80 and Highway 50. So if you are headed to the Sierra, take heed. Though,
I mean, I'll just say one thing on that point. We need the snow desperately. I mean, we're really way behind. Even as there's been rain at sea level, there's not been enough snow in the West. It's a real crisis.
You would mention that because that's the next story. The California winter snowpack off to a very slow start, as Mark Thompson notes. It's only 25% of average compared to a whopping 185% at this time last year. The State Department of Water Resources conducting its first snow survey of the season in the Sierra Nevada mountains yesterday. Officials credit a series of atmospheric river style storms for one of the largest snowpacks on record, but they say this water year been dry so far. So are we in trouble again? I don't know. I'll tell you who's in trouble, most of us dealing with PG&E. The state's largest utility is now the most expensive. That is because of PG&E's latest rate hike. The company started charging 13% more for power on Monday. Customers will see that on their next bill, averaging an extra $33 a month. But come March, could be even higher if a 7% increase is approved. PG&E says the money is needed to bury power lines and pay for other efforts to reduce wildfire risks. So cough it up. It's going to be more expensive. New buildings in California may not need to stick with electric appliances after all. Berkeley became the first city in the nation to ban natural gas-powered stoves in 2019. They're trying to fight climate change, but an appeals court struck that down last April and then refused to rehear the case yesterday. The ruling will become final unless the Supreme Court agrees to review it. This could overturn laws in other cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles as well. So gas-powered stoves apparently back on. A University of Washington professor with ties to plagiarism, the plagiarism case that ended Harvard President Claudine Gay's career, says it's no big deal. What? Yeah, that's what he's saying. Let me take away the, there you go.
What?
No big deal. It's all right. Nothing to see here. He says that University of Wisconsin. I said Washington. My bad. I'm sorry. University of Wisconsin Professor Emeritus David Cannon says Gay didn't really plagiarize his work. She simply used a similar definition when taking pieces from his book, which is called Race, Redistricting, and Representation. Cannon says good definitions use similar language. Gay resigned as Harvard president yesterday.
As I told you yesterday, she had like the worst 2-week news cycle of anybody in terms of keeping your job. She booted an easy question about genocide to the congressional committee. I mean, it really was an easy one. And then this is the head of a renowned university, and you have trouble condemning calls for genocide. These are calls for genocide that she had trouble condemning. And secondly, she is then nailed on this plagiarism thing. I mean, and even if it was in that gray area, it's just a bad look. So leaving aside the merits of either, you cannot survive in this environment at that level, at that kind of university. You cannot survive that kind of 2-week news cycle. So she's out.
She's out, and that's it. There is a new King studio at the global box office. Here it is, Universal Studios overtaking Disney to earn the top spot in 2023. It is the first time that Disney has failed to take the '1 spot since 2016. Led by Oppenheimer and the Super Mario Brothers movie, Universal's 24 movies released last year brought in $4.91 billion at the global box office.
Wow.
Yeah.
They beat out Disney. Very impressive, I got to say.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, right.
And lastly, a 13-year-old seems to be the first person to beat the original Tetris. This teenager, who goes by the nickname Blue Scooty on social media, posted a video on YouTube showing him appearing to defeat the famous puzzle game. The record was previously held by an AI bot, according to 404 Media. He was about 38 minutes into playing the game when he realized he was close to beating it. The Blue Scooty, apparently the first to beat the game and get to the kill screen on the original Nintendo Entertainment System. So the original Tetris version has been beaten by a human for the very first time.
You saw the original Donkey Kong, the movie about the guy who went after that. It's called King of Kong.
Okay.
It's terrific.
Really?
And you would appreciate it because you're married with kids, as was he, and yet he had this passion to be the Donkey Kong dominant guy. And so he has to balance, right? He has to balance a life with a wife and kids with this obsession, right? It really is. And there were conventions, and you'll see by the hairstyles that it was at the time of Donkey Kong. So he's got like, I think, almost like a mullet style type haircut. But there's controversy, and it's really a pretty good movie. It's called King of Kong. Yeah.
This report sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. Love, love, love me some Why Are You Yelling Red? Simply say, smash it with your iron rod when you call Rich out at Tenuta Vineyards at 925.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Just like that, 925-699-4576. And you can order wine to be delivered. You can go out to the winery, do some test tasting, and check it out. They have a place there to have conferences and parties. So a lot of things going on.
They have a great, they've got a great conference space there. I mean, a great, larger group space there. It's absolutely terrific.
And they're super, super, super nice people. So smash it with your iron rod. Don't forget to get your exclusive Mark Thompson show 10% off at Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man! Pull up those pants!
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Everything is going extremely well.
Calling me a liar? Is that what you call him? You, sir, are a liar.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Liar, liar, your pants are on fire!
can you let him finish, sir? It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
No.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing?
Do you have a secret now?
Doesn't anybody better weed?
100% effective. How about that?
Say what?
And this is their new home.
There is no defense for my conduct.
I misspoke. I stand corrected. And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
Yeah, that was a sudden finish. The music was hot, Albert. Is that what you were telling me?
Just a tad, but I think you got it towards the end. It wasn't too bad. I'm sure everyone adjusted.
The last 20 seconds, Mark, was fine. It's so funny. We have the way that we communicate on this new platform, YouTube. I know we've been doing it about a year now, but it limits us. So, like Albert, if he wants to tell me something, there's no way he can just tell me without it going
I can't
on
just
the
whisper
platform.
in your ear.
Yeah, there's no. Whereas KGO, there was more of a way to communicate. But it's
Mark, we got a break now. We have a bottom of the hour news.
Yeah, exactly. What was the thing that we used to run when we were running late and it was time to go to a break? It was the.
I think we used to play music going out, and we just kind of faded in. I think.
Yeah, but there was a drop we played. You're down to 5% battery.
It was a Stewie drop.
It was really funny. Yeah, we have to find that now with the machine down. I don't even know if we still have it.
Everybody hated that. Everybody hated that, and everybody hated. This is a tweet from Mother Teresa. Those were like the two.
Yeah, that's right. They hated that. Yeah, I had to turn my volume down. Says John. Gee, I'm sorry about that. I will tell you that it is with great anticipation. Yeah, you're down to 5% battery. That I both welcome him in and have made him wait for way longer than he should have to. How about the great John Rothmann? He does a podcast called Around the Political World with John Rothmann. What a year you're going to have.
Really? Is there something going on this year, Mark?
There is. They say, I mean, I know it's often said, but it really does feel true. The most important election of our lifetimes. I was looking at something this morning talking about swing states and how critical they are. Since the Electoral College, it's utterly ridiculous. I mean, you could probably give us the 45-second history on how we ended up with this crap, but how it's visiting upon the entire American population of voters a toxicity that doesn't even represent their voice. Meaning, if you look at Hillary Clinton, she beat Donald Trump by millions of votes. If you look at tell me, you can tell me the last. I think Bush won,
Al
right?
Gore.
Al Gore.
Al Gore won over 500,000 votes more than George W. Bush.
Right. So I mean, and of course, in the latest election, we saw Donald Trump fall, but you began to see.
No, Mark. He won the election. Didn't you hear what he said?
Oh, sorry. That's right.
Thank you. I just want to correct you.
But, John, give me 45 seconds on how we ended up with the Electoral College and then how you see these swing states. And then I will tell you the strategy, I think, that makes sense. I'm sure you've already thought of it, but I'll still underscore it. That makes sense for the Democrats to try to get some of these swing states for the Electoral College victory that they'll need. How do we end up with this Electoral College anyway?
It was very simple, Mark. The founders were not sure they trusted the people. So if you had electors, they could overturn what the people wanted if it were necessary. And so that was the logic behind it. It was a safety valve, if you will. And it worked, I have to tell you, for most of the history of America, until we hit an election like 1876, when Samuel J. Tilden defeated Rutherford B. Hayes by 500,000 votes, and still Tilden lost 185 to 184 in the Electoral College. And we saw another example in 1888 when we saw, again, the popular majority defeated by the Electoral College in the rematch between Harrison and Cleveland. So we have a system. People want to change it. If you want to change it, we have to have an amendment to the Constitution.
Well, it won't be changed because it serves the GOP so well. Obviously, the Democrats are not at all served by this. And when you say it worked for so long, what do you mean by that?
I mean, there were no disputes.
Okay.
That it was a clear, decisive victory. Really, 1876, 1888, those are the two examples in the 19th century. And in the 20th century, it's a very interesting point. Richard Nixon, who many people view as a villain, did not challenge the result of the 1960 election. He could have. He felt he really carried Illinois and Texas. And in the end, he conceded those states to John F. Kennedy and lost in the Electoral College 303 to 219. But if he'd carried Illinois and he'd carried Texas, he would have won the electoral vote. Kennedy, by the way, may have actually lost the popular vote. Depends how you count the vote. Did he win by 112,450 votes? By 118,450 votes? Or did Nixon, if you subtract Mississippi and Alabama, where Kennedy wasn't even on the ballot, but the Democratic rooster was, then Nixon would have won the popular vote. So, it just depends how you calculate things.
Who was was it Stalin? What's Stalin's quote about the vote? Wasn't it, was it Stalin? Maybe I'm ascribing it to Stalin and it wasn't him, but I thought it was, I don't care about the vote. I don't care about controlling the voting. I can care about controlling the counting.
That's what every crooked judge, crooked vote counter says in the United States.
Yeah. And so to the swing states, John. Mm-hmm. First of all, just the last thing on this, because it came up in the chat. I mean, the notion that it brings underpopulated states sort of to the table at the same level that of popular states.
Look, Mark, if you go to a popular vote alone, no candidate for president is going to campaign in any of the small states. But we now know that if you campaign for the presidency and you have to win the Electoral College, you've got to go to small states. And if you don't, as Hillary Clinton did not in 2016, you lose the election. Nixon is the only candidate for president to campaign in all 50 states. He made it a point. He made it a pledge. And you know what he did the day before the election? He was up in Alaska instead of being in Illinois. And that may have cost him the election.
There's a lot of that, right, as you say, with Hillary Clinton as well. Just on that point, Joseph Stalin said some version of it's not the people who vote that count, it's the people who count the votes that count.
Well, isn't that, you could ascribe that to Donald Trump.
Right, yes. And by the way, it was said by a lot of other people too. I just was looking on Snopes, but it was interesting yes. So we'll get to Trump in a minute, but of course he's the presumptive leader and the presumptive candidate on the GOP side. And so we get to presumptive's a ding word. You're right. So let me get to those swing states, John, which become so critical.
Sure.
It strikes me that the abortion question might bring more boys to the yard for the Democrats and even among independent Republican voters.
Excuse me, did you say more boys? It'll bring more women.
I know, but I meant it's a lyric from a song. But yes, you're right. It was the wrong thing to.
It's just that you didn't sing it properly.
It'll bring more people to the ballot box.
Sure, take a look. 7 states have already repudiated the Republican hardline on abortion.
And so the strategy would be this, John. How do you feel about this? Mm-hmm. You put abortion on the ballot as a state-by-state issue. You get it on there. That will bring out those men and women who care about women's reproductive rights in their state. It'll bring them to the. You need to get turnout, right? That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, you're going to get turnout. We've seen it in 7 states, including a state like Kansas. People are turning out clearly, men and women. And I think it's going to be one of the critical issues. And let me tell you, the other critical issue may be the Supreme Court. Let's see what the Supreme Court does with all of these cases involving Donald Trump. There could be a huge backlash. And my suggestion to you is the Democrats should feel pretty good about swing states because the Republicans are taking the stands on issues like a woman's right to choose to the extreme. And they will lose votes if they do that.
Well, my thinking is, John, that while that's true on the issues are defined by the zeitgeist around the election, meaning if you can remind everyone of these things you talk about, the Supreme Court, abortion, women's reproductive rights, then that'll be in voters' heads. If it's all about the Middle East and the price of gas, if it goes back up, whatever, you know what I mean? You can, or cultural wedge issues, trans rights, whatever issue you want to whip up. Yeah.
I watched Fox this morning. They're doing a whole thing on trans rights.
Sure. That's my point.
But I have to tell you, I believe that has very limited appeal. That is why the Republican base, in my judgment, is narrowing. And I think when Nikki Haley made the unbelievable comment while you were on vacation about slavery, not mentioning slavery in the context of the Civil War, it did her tremendous damage. And so my feeling at this point is that the Democrats on the issues will have the upper hand in swing states. And I'm talking about Wisconsin, I'm talking about Michigan, I'm talking about Pennsylvania, I'm talking about the big states that Donald Trump feels he needs to carry, or the Republicans have to carry. And it's clear that those are not issues that resonate with voters. So my feeling today, and remember, we're still quite a bit away from the election itself in November, is the Republicans are on the losing side. By the way, if they try to push this idea of a 6-week ban on abortion, believe me, it'll turn people out.
This Texas ruling on abortion is pretty big that just hit in the last day, which essentially prevents women from it doesn't normally the way it works is if you show up to the ER and it's your life on the line, they can preemptively, or they can respond in an urgent way by providing an abortion to this woman who's otherwise would lose her life. That's not the way the Texas
law reads.
Like if you're having horrible pain because you have an ectopic pregnancy, right? And it's going to burst and you're going to die and you show up in the emergency room, they should be able to help you.
But in Texas, the law will be that you cannot.
And that will be the driving issue, which will turn women and men out to vote against Republicans.
Yes and no. You have to keep it in the conversation, is my point. I mean, I get it. I agree with you. But I'm suggesting you have to keep it in the conversation. And just to be pure about it, the Texas law doesn't require physicians there to provide that relief to the woman who needs the abortion to have her life saved. The point I'm trying to make, and I think I've made it, and we're going back and forth on this, is just that it has to continue in the conversation. And now I would push back a little bit on even the Nikki Haley thing. You said that Nikki Haley was hurt by the slavery comments. I'd say she was hurt with lib centrist media, but she knew who she was playing to, John. She's a South Carolinian, for God's sakes. She is playing to her crew. She's in a primary to get the GOP, to win the GOP primary. So nomination is the word I wanted, to get the GOP nomination, such that she has to play to that crew. You don't agree with that?
No, I agree with you. And I think what she did was fairly typical of what Nikki Haley has done throughout her political career. Right. Look how it's rebounded against her. If you listened to Fox last night, they were taking her on this issue.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. And I believe very strongly the Democrats are going to couch their campaign in just that way. I don't think Nikki Haley will be the Republican nominee for president or vice president. I think she'll be an asterisk in this campaign, just like George Romney's brainwashing comment, which eliminated him, but left nothing there in the end.
Right.
So this will be framed really on Trump. And although the issues are critical, the other thing is that if I were questioning Donald Trump, I would ask him, who won the election of 2020? And if he says I did, that'll be another thunderous issue. And may I tell you, I am now reading Liz Cheney's book, which I have to tell you is one of the most powerful and compelling books against Donald Trump I've ever read, along with another book called The Romney Reckoning, which Mitt Romney didn't write, but he contributed to. Let me tell you something. If the Democrats lose this election, I'll be very surprised. And may I also point out, the Republicans are holding up money for Ukraine, even as the Russians are bombarding Ukraine. They are holding up money in the Middle East for the Israelis. And this is not going to do wonders at all for the Republicans controlling the House of Representatives. I think the House is going to go Democratic. And I'm not saying that as a partisan. I'm just taking a hard look at it. The Senate.
What about the Senate? Take me to the Senate. That's a problem.
Problematic. More problematic.
Explain to us why the Senate is more problematic, please, sir.
You have a far more powerful body. They confirm justices of the court.
But why we may lose, the Democrats and those who are lean lib or centrist may lose the Senate. Can you touch on that? You lose Sinema, you lose Manchin. Go ahead.
That's right. You've just said it. There are Democrats that are retiring or leaving, and who will replace them? But I have to tell you, the Democrats have a big problem. If, for instance, on the Supreme Court question of immunity for Donald Trump, blanket immunity, if that were to come down from the court in defiance of the United States versus Richard Nixon, I believe the outrage would be so great that, again, the Republicans would have a terrible time winning control of the Senate. The Democrats understand that. The worst enemy the Republicans have right now is their own politics and Donald Trump. And I'm not saying that as a partisan. I just believe it to be true.
Well, what they're going to do, I thought I saw something even in the chat about this, John, and this is kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about getting something into the conversation. And it's not just the conversation. Let me make this point, and then I'll address this. It's about immigration. But I want to make this point clear. The idea and the strategy that I'm forwarding is that you need to get abortion and women's reproductive rights, not in the conversation. Of course you want that. But you need to get it on the ballot. You need to get it memorialized in a constitution, a state constitution. There needs to be a referendum on it. That will bring people to the ballot box in those states where you need to get people to the ballot box.
I agree with you. If the Republicans persist in their 6-week ban, and that is what Mike Pence proposed, and that I think Nikki Haley embraces, there will be a reaction. People understand the implication, even if it's not on the ballot. But
that gets it into the conversation. I agree with that.
It wasn't the presidential election year, and women turned out and men in overwhelming numbers to slap down that kind of thing. Within that calendar year, it had Roe had been overturned. I mean, that was pretty big. But hey, let me just get you onto this. We get this. Delwood Kelp said. By the way, Delwood Kelp, if that's your real name, you have the best name of anyone who's ever been in our chat. Send me a picture of your birth certificate with the name Delwood Kelp, and I will send you back a piece of Mark merch. All right? Delwood Kelp is a great name. I do not believe it's real, but if it is real, Delwood, damn it, I will send you a piece of Mark merch. He says Trump may overwhelm media with visual immigration issue. Flood of illegal crossings. Mark and John downplaying the anger. Delwood is right. We talk about immigration a lot on this show. Maybe not enough, maybe too much, but let's talk about it as a political cudgel. I mean, it is used by both sides as the thing and the problem in America. Meanwhile, there are no real creative suggestions as to how to solve the problem. That's precisely right. There is no solution. And if Donald Trump talks about building a wall again, that's going nowhere. And Mexico is not going to pay for it. And interestingly enough, I heard the numbers this morning that the illegal immigration numbers are down at this moment. So I can't tell you, I know it's an issue. I know Fox emphasizes it as an issue. I know CNN and MSNBC are covering it as an issue, but I don't think it will be the decisive issue because there's no real answer. There just isn't an answer. And Donald Trump's bluff and bluster, or the Republicans' bluff and bluster, look where the Speaker of the House of Representatives is today. He's leading 60 Republican members of the House down to the border. It's grandstanding, and I don't think it will make any difference at all. So,
John, I mean, of course, I agree with you. It is grandstanding, and it's complete politics. And even these photo ops at the border are just that. But I don't. The idea that it won't make any difference, I don't know. I mean, the image that Trump has, real or imagined or created, is as being tough on immigration. That his border policy is tough.
And that was the whole point of his administration. The Democrats will make that case. But let me assure you that Donald Trump himself, if he is the nominee, is going to be an issue. There are many compelling issues about Donald Trump. People feel very uncomfortable about Donald Trump, and he is going to continue to make people feel uncomfortable. Remember, very often a president is elected not by who you're for, but who you're voting against. And I still believe, and I may be wrong, it wouldn't be the first time, as my wife will tell you, that in this campaign, if Donald Trump is the nominee, he carries too many negatives. And I think the Democrats are going to exploit that. Now, the question of Joe Biden and what Joe Biden does is a whole other question.
Andrew Peters, who's kind of in our chat, he's sort of he's a contrarian. He's a big Trumpy, I think. RFK Jr. will play spoiler, John. Give me a notion on RFK
Not unless
Jr.
he's on the ballot. And let me tell you, getting on the ballot in enough states to make a difference for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to be tough. And I believe that if Kennedy were to run, he would be a spoiler. But I can tell you he'll be a spoiler for the Republicans, not the Democrats, because too many Republicans embrace conspiracy theories just like Robert Kennedy Jr.
That's what B.A. Ware says. Doesn't RFK Jr. take more votes from Trump than Biden, though?
I believe so. But I don't know that he will be a factor because he's not going to get on the ballot in very many states. And if he gets on the ballot in swing states, he'll take votes from Republicans, not Democrats.
Bob Menendez is a Democrat from Jersey, is it?
Yes,
and
New Jersey.
He's now got even bigger issues when it comes to allegations that are criminal.
Excuse me, do you have some gold bars you'd like to send me?
That's my favorite part, actually, of Bob Menendez, is that he's got the gold bars. I have mad respect for people with
and if he's convicted, he won't have gold bars, but he will have bars.
Oh, I love it. I almost want to ding that. It's so strong. So Senator Bob Menendez introduced a member of the Qatari royal family and a principal in a company with ties to the government of Qatar to a New Jersey businessman before that company invested millions of dollars in the businessman's real estate project. This is a new indictment, just came in yesterday.
Yep.
This latest version of the indictment against Democrat
Bob
Menendez is in Manhattan federal court. Didn't identify the member of the Qatari royal family, but it said the individual was a principal in the Qatari investment company.
And remember, we're relying on Qatar right now for the negotiations in the Middle East. And they have always been a corrupt government, and we all understand that. But you play with the players that are playing.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much everybody in the game is corrupt on some level. So their businessmen charged alongside Menendez in all of this. I'm wondering if you could give me a moment on Menendez. He's actually beaten back once. You can give me some history on this.
Hung jury, not declared innocent. Hung jury.
Right. Hung jury on the last criminal charge. Go ahead. What's the story on this one?
He's finished. It's only a question of time and when justice catches up with him.
Does that matter to the count for Democrats as well, John?
No, because I believe any Democrat who goes into that seat will win. That's not a state Republicans have had much luck in carrying in recent years.
Right.
You remember the last Republican in New Jersey who was really popular? Clifford Case. And that's going back a long time.
Well, I don't remember that. Here's a question from Russ for John Rothman. Does Donald Trump still have his security clearances?
Yes. He's a former president of the United States. And as far as I know, he is still receiving security clearances.
Wow.
And briefings. That includes a former president is generally entitled to CIA, FBI, and so forth.
John, I will finish with you with a little...
I hope not. I don't want to be finished. The year's just starting.
A little question about the Middle East.
Yes.
First, in the X's and O's of what's going on there, the Israeli military took out, I believe, the Hezbollah chief.
No, Hamas.
Oh, Hamas chief. I'm sorry, Hezbollah. But it was in a Hezbollah area. Wasn't it in Lebanon?
That is correct, because Hamas and Hezbollah are allies.
So just to remind everybody, this is why I made that I got a little confused also. So Hezbollah controls southern Lebanon, okay? Hamas controls the Gaza, okay?
Correct.
And I believe Islamic Jihad, they control a lot of the West Bank area. Isn't that?
No, they don't control it, but they have a real voice.
They have a presence, okay. They don't
if Hamas collapsed as the Israelis want, Islamic Jihad is the logical successor.
Okay, so you've got those three. So anyway, so in southern Lebanon, where, again, Hezbollah hangs out, and they really do control things, and they have a lot of sophisticated weaponry there and all the rest, they, I guess the Hamas deputy leader was killed by the Israelis.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, the Israelis aren't claiming it, but they are the ones who did it, of course.
Now, it's suggested as a possibility, and then I want to get to the broader issue, but suggested as a possibility as a result of this, that this might somehow embroil Lebanon in all of this, or embroil other factions in a wider conflict. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, Sheikh Nasrallah is about to give a speech. It may be happening as you and I are talking. I've got to check as soon as we're out, and you might want to check it as well. Because he's very angry. This is really an assault on him in a way, because this is his area, and he was protecting a Hamas military leader. So there are real consequences. Remember that Hezbollah has 150,000 rockets. They're far more sophisticated than what Hamas has. If they were to unload on Israel, let me tell you, it would be a disaster, because Iron Dome could not take out all of those rockets. Let me also remind you that already 300,000 Israelis who live in the north of the country have been evacuated, because there is a genuine fear that Nasrallah will ultimately let loose. So the question is, why hasn't he up to now? Because Nasrallah understands that if he does, Israel will destroy him. And he doesn't want to be destroyed. This is a matter of him for survival. So he's got to play several things. That's why his speech is going to be so significant today. As to how he chooses to respond. But let me point out again, 300,000 Israelis have had to vacate their homes in northern Israel.
I believe Hamas has already won, and because they don't care about anything but throwing Israel into this pariah status that the Israelis, sadly, I think, have ended up in, this status that suggests that they are, this genocidal administration.
And I just remind you that genocide means mass destruction. If Israel wanted to kill all the Palestinians, they could have, and they haven't. That's why it's not genocide, and that's why we have to reject that notion.
It's important that you mention the word, because the word is radioactive. But more to the point, it's a horror show in Gaza. But that's, I believe, what Hamas wants. They embedded themselves in a civilian population.
You're right.
There aren't bomb shelters in the Gaza Strip. There are millions and billions of dollars have gone in there, and there are no bomb shelters.
No, they're
and
tunnels.
All of these sophisticated tunnels, they are immensely sophisticated
and
and
I
extensive.
Just point out quickly,
those are only for Hamas fighters. So that
Hezbollah has a more sophisticated tunnel network, and we now know, in southern Lebanon. So if that front opens up, it will be horrific for everyone. And I just want to point that out. I did a podcast on this calling it the unthinkable, but it is entirely probable. And you heard what happened in Iran this morning, and that is that there were explosions at the commemoration of the 3-year anniversary of the death of one of their leading fighters. And I would remind you that the president of Harvard, as you pointed out, was resigned in the end for two reasons. One, because she wouldn't condemn genocide against Jews. Let me emphasize, it was genocide against Jews that she was iffy about. And the other thing is plagiarism. And either way, she is now gone. It's a very serious question in the United States. I don't know whether or not people are really following the traffic jams in New York, or even the traffic jams that were developed here in Northern California, and the battles that are taking place in city councils. This is a very serious issue, but you are correct in pointing out the implications for Lebanon and Nasrallah. One other quick point, Lebanon doesn't really have a functioning government. You understand that. Lebanon doesn't really exist as a nation. And the division in Lebanon itself between Christians, Shiites, Sunnis, and Druze is still profound. I have a very good friend who's a Christian from Lebanon. His family is still there. And I asked him what he thought. He said, "Don't worry, we're okay. And we don't really worry about Hezbollah. We hope that the Israelis take them out." So you have a real question that's going on right now in the broader Middle East. And let me also say, with Iran. One other quick point, I know we're running out of time. The United States is now involved. We took out 4 vessels the Houthis were using in the Red Sea. Why? Because if you take a look at a map, you will see that the Red Sea area takes Israel shipping into account. You close the Red Sea, you close off a lot, you've got a serious problem for the Israelis. So there are a lot of moving parts here, and it is...
Explain, maybe just for the sake of it, again, you can do it in 15 seconds, the Houthis, again, and their relationship to Iran.
Oh, they're supported by Iran. They get their missiles from Iran.
They're a terrorist organization out of Yemen.
Yes, and the same thing applies with Hamas and Hezbollah. This is a coalition of terrorists, and it's a
That's
very
exactly
sad
right.
commentary.
Yeah. California synagogues forced to shut down yesterday because of local and federal law enforcement investigations. They've got many email threats. More than 100 synagogues sent emails claiming explosives were on the property.
Absolutely.
These are
For
scary
Jews,
times. So
for Jews, this is a very scary time. And that's why I emphasize the question of the president of Harvard. The reason she got into trouble was because sitting before a congressional committee, she would not denounce genocide against Jews. And I want to underline the word Jews. That's what did it to her. And although the plagiarism thing plays a role, because she did plagiarize, it's very clear now, that is the kicker. People were furious. And I must tell you, when I listen to some people on the other side who say, well, it's only because she's black or only because she's a woman, that's absolutely untrue. She had great support and would have had great support till she made 2 fundamental mistakes. She wouldn't denounce genocide against Jews and plagiarism. So that's her problem. She has now had the shortest tenure of any president of Harvard University.
there's nothing like libs turning on themselves. The other side that you talk about is another branch of the Libby libs. I mean, it's all happening on the Libby lib side. You can not be virtuous enough for the liberal wing. And the idea somehow that, you know, what I thought was an easy question. I can't believe they booted those questions in the front of that committee. Right. That could be the beginning of the end.
Who's raising the big issue? Listen to Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton claims this is purely a matter of racial bias.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, Al Sharpton is a lib. All right. Anyway, I'm out of time. Love talking to you. We can get more into the dynamics in the
You're out of
Middle
time?
East, I hope.
Hey, we're glad you're back. I didn't hear all of your adventures. I can't wait, but I want you to know Kim McAllister did a brilliant job of filling in for you. And I know we're talking about giving everybody a raise here, so Kim deserves it.
Well, she is terrific. We couldn't possibly pay her more than we already pay her, though. But thank you for that. Yes, exactly. John Rothmann, everybody. Love it. Bye, John. Yeah. Wow. Pretty cool.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Look at him pitching for Kim to get a raise.
I think he forgot me, Mark.
Yeah. When I say we couldn't pay her anymore, I mean literally we couldn't. We don't have the money.
No.
Now, I am excited, though, speaking of Kim, to get some news. We'll do a news update. Look, when I talk to Rothmann, I have a lot of stuff to get to with John, always. And so we'll get more into maybe Middle East next time or politics. We have limited time and we want to get into a lot of different stuff. So I think that was a good little snapshot of what's happening at the moment in the Middle East, and we can get into more next time. Kim's news, and then I actually have a couple of elements here. One is Chunk of Trump. Second is Jimmy Kimmel versus Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. And third, and we did it yesterday, and it may be a sign of what we do in the new year.
Oh.
A Law and Disorder Part 2. We may finish the show with that. But I promise you the Chunk of Trump for sure. Smash the like button like a boss. Give us a thumbs up. It helps us in the world of algorithms on YouTube. And also I'll mention, if you can share this show, you may share a short. You know, we put out these little clips from the show, maybe a video from the show. Maybe it's Rothmann. Maybe it's David K. Johnston. Maybe it's some Law and Disorder that we do. Share those to your Facebook page or to wherever you do your social media. And that helps us. It helps expand the show. Looking for Albert should give him gold bars. Albert, give Albert the gold bars. Yeah.
Maybe
that's a
Bob
good idea,
can spare some,
Yeah. Those Bob Menendez
Bar
quality bars.
Yeah.
Like the hoodie, Albert, says Julie. Wow. Albert is very getting...
I completely disagree.
Well, I actually like it also. This on the Harvard issue. Digital Indra says, my input kind of late and irrelevant at this point, but I think Harvard is just doing damage control to protect its image. She's just the scapegoat. Of course, you're right. I mean, it is virtue signaling, but it's still pretty big when you dump a university president for those reasons. Anything else I need to... Yeah, John is right on this, just to button it out. John, she said that something like it depends on what context genocide was being used. Wondering in which context it was okay. Exactly. It was she tried to split the baby, and it was just awful, and it was not as hard as they made it. And if you can't handle that, you don't deserve to be there. In any case, Albert is doing a great job. He needs some Mark swag. It is true. You're kind of light on the Mark Thompson Show swag. Maybe we do need to take care of that in the new year. And Luis says with $4.99, we love Luis. Thank you for a super chat today.
Big shout out.
Mark, pay Kim and Albert. Kim and Albert just structure your contracts like Shohei Ohtani. Get the bulk of your cash a decade from now.
Oh, yeah.
Then he says this, though. LOL, go Dodgers.
What?
Albert, if I, Luis, I believe, is in Los Angeles. If I were to offer you more money, we don't have more money to give you. You're at the limit, the salary cap. But if I were to offer you more somehow, but the provision was you have to do what because Luis is paying your increased salary, and he wants you to every day say, go Dodgers.
Oh.
But would you be able to do it?
That's an instant no. That's no money in the world would ever,
Sorry, Luis. Yeah, doesn't look like that's going to happen. But
I'm looking forward to that. That eliminated by some team with half your payroll in the playoffs.
All right, Kim's news, then a chug of Trump. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and let's start now with what's going on at some state capitals around the country. They're receiving bomb threats. State capitals in Georgia, Kentucky, Michigan, pictured here, Mississippi, and others forced to evacuate today, though none of the threats were found to be credible at this time. Many of the buildings have reopened following sweeps for explosives. Officials in Georgia, Michigan, and Connecticut said evacuations have been triggered by threatening emails sent to lawmakers and government officials. Georgia election official Gabriel Sterling warned chaos agents will try to increase tensions as the 2024 election approaches. So apparently that's what we have to look forward to. More bomb threats. This time, dozens of California Jewish houses of worship are on alert after receiving threatening messages. The messages sent Tuesday claimed bombs had been hidden, at buildings at temples throughout the state. There were a total of 91 Jewish houses of worship that received these threats yesterday. House Republicans will hold impeachment hearings against Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas over his handling of the southern border. There's Mr. Mayorkas. Yes. Mayorkas today said he will cooperate with this inquiry. He stressed that he is focused on his job, including negotiating with senators on border policy changes to address the surge in asylum seekers arriving from Mexico. The DHS secretary said he's hopeful that an immigration fix will occur. The House Homeland Security Committee is expected to hold its first impeachment hearing on January 10th. A horribly sad story in Japan. Maybe you saw the footage of this. The Japanese Coast Guard plane that collided with a passenger plane in this deadly Tokyo crash was not cleared for takeoff. That according to an official transcript of an air traffic control communication released today. Japan Airlines Flight 516 crashed into the Coast Guard aircraft after it landed on the runway Tuesday, ending in an eruption of fire. Again, that Japanese Coast Guard plane wasn't cleared for takeoff. Scientists have developed a new antibiotic. Yeah, this is a new kind of antibiotic to treat dangerous bacteria that's resistant to most current medicines. The bacteria can cause serious lung, urinary tract, and blood infections, according to the CDC. It kills a large fraction of people with an invasive infection and is resistant to a class of broad-spectrum antibiotics. The researchers from Harvard University and Swiss healthcare company Hoffmann La Roche say the new antibiotic called Zosurobalpin can effectively kill this bacteria. Zosurobalpin, welcome. A federal, right? I mean, we needed it. A federal judge has ruled that the former Kentucky County clerk who refused to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples has to pay now more than $260,000 in fees. There she is, Kim Davis. She also has to pay expenses to one couple's attorneys. Kim Davis was already responsible for $100,000 in damages awarded by a jury to the couple who won a lawsuit against her last year. Again, a federal judge has ruled the former Kentucky County clerk who refused to issue those marriage licenses to same-sex couples has to pay more than $260,000 in fees.
Wow. I gotta say, I love that.
Good day, sir.
Exactly. Good day. I mean,
don't feel sad about that at all.
Of course not. She was a grandstanding piece of S. I'm sorry. That is just so wrong. It's so easy. I love these people who, die on these ridiculous hills. It's just, and here's the problem. She lives in a bubble the way a lot of libs live in a bubble and right-wingers live in bubbles, and she's surrounded by the rah-rahs. Like, yeah, you show them, and then she's surrounded by that, and ultimately she makes these stupid decisions that are more than stupid. They're hurtful. And I'd even say that they're more than hurtful. I mean, they're destructive. They're toxic. And these people who are public officials should follow the law, damn it. It's just so wrong on so many levels, not to mention, just personally, my God, I mean, give me a break. Are we still on this same-sex marriage thing, really, in 2023? It's absurd. It's so wrong. It's so completely and utterly irrelevant. Anyway, good for them.
Yep. I'm sure
look forward to you filing bankruptcy. At least you don't have to go far. It's right down the hall from where you work.
I'm sure, though, that there are a lot of conservatives that are coming to her aid and putting money into some special account, where they'll pay her legal costs. I don't know.
Yeah,
nice to cop it up herself.
Here you go. If you can't carry out your job duties due to a conflict of ideology, don't take the job. I mean, I think that's a reasonable take on it from Ren.
Yeah.
Here's my boy, Jimmy. What's the story?
Jimmy Kimmel threatening Aaron Rodgers with legal action. The late-night talk show host is responding to Rodgers after the star NFL quarterback linked Kimmel to a list of people associated with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. That list set to come out partially today and maybe over the next few days. Well, during an appearance on ESPN's The Pat McAfee Show, Rodgers said there's a lot of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, who are really hoping that list doesn't come out. Well, that didn't sit well with Kimmel. In a post on X, Kimmel said he never had any contact with Epstein, called Rodgers' words reckless, and said he put his family in danger. He ended the post telling Rodgers, "Keep it up, and we'll debate the facts further in court."
I mean, it is true that you're implying something that's really damaging, and
that's right.
It's not true on top of that, right? So you've got likely not true, and so you may be legally culpable of defamatory speech. Yeah, you got to watch it. But boy, I didn't think. And Aaron Rodgers, I kind of had cooled off on my anger and dislike of Aaron Rodgers. Not anger, but you know what I mean. But now that he's pulled this crap, it's back on front burner, man, on high. Not a fan of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, no, you should be able to say things like that about make a connection between people. Can I get my bad? I'm sorry, because that's kind of what's happening here. Golf star Rory McIlroy says he was too quick to judge golfers who joined LIV Golf. The 4-time major champion was one of the most outspoken players against the Saudi.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yep. Speaking on Stick to Football podcast, he said it could have been a mistake because now he realizes that not every player is in the position to be picky over how they make a living playing golf.
My words upset so many people.
Yeah, it's true. It sounds to me like he's warming up to play in that league, though, huh, Albert? Is that what's happening?
Well, I think they're merging in a few years, and I think
see.
he's damage controlling for that time. But
yeah,
he's right. He was wrong.
Yeah, he stands corrected.
I stand corrected.
All right.
Yeah, he has to apologize to the entire golf community.
Yeah.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Yeah.
This report is sponsored by, yeah, you got it, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Come on, kids. I'm drinking it right now.
The place to get a little bit of heaven in your Mark Thompson Show coffee mug. That's right. Find a huge, huge selection of coffee and amazing teas. Just a treat just for you. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
I'm having a sip right now.
Take your little treat. Get your exclusive 10% discount for being a Mark Thompson Show listener.
It's
Put
a bit
in
of heaven.
Mark T at checkout and enjoy the good stuff like Mark is doing right now.
Yes.
Mark T all together, by the way.
All together.
CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Mark T is your 10% discount code on anything that you order on the site, anything at all. You can tell I'm coffeeed up. Just had another shot. I'm ready to rock.
That's right. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
%100% effective. How about that?
There is no defense for my conduct.
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker, Joe Box, and Little Anthony.
Mo Black's brother, Fat Andy.
That was very inappropriate.
Smash it with your iron rod.
This thing has been dragging on.
Seriously,
and on
what
and on.
Come on now. Come on. It is a delight to have everybody here. It is the new year. Kim, Albert, myself, we are all committed to making this an even better year than last year. Commissioner, I have a question for you. Commish, don't let it sneak up on you. Mark's Madness is right around the corner. You know that.
Yeah.
And you are the
right around
commissioner
corner.
of Mark's Madness, sir. I put my credibility glasses on to emphasize the fact that you must be in control. And one of my concerns, if I can express it, is that we have a lot of the same teams now entering Mark's Madness, meaning a lot of the same drops are competing again. I ask you now, not a prediction, but just an impression. Do you feel as though it will go down exactly like it did last year with the same winner?
I'm not sure, but because I think we did get an idea a couple months ago about maybe the top Florida stories for March Madness maybe this year to change things up. So
you also
I
have
think in terms of drops.
What's that?
I think in terms of drops, I think the favorites will always be strong. It's always been that way.
The drop that you have a couple of drops that I don't even have. And of course, I've lost my huge arm of drop machine. The drop machine is gone, but I will have it back, I hope, this week. But That's true. There's chit, which could do it. This chit could be very strong this year. I totally forgot. Thank you, Jennifer, in the chat for pointing that out. I was thinking of the drop that you have about the mating season. I feel like that might go deep.
Right now it's mating season, and they're hungry.
Yeah, Albert has it. I don't have that drop.
What about ma'am? I'm on the phone.
Ma'am, I'm on the phone. Albert has, I believe, which is another one. You're right. That could go. I'd love.
Ma'am, I'm on the phone.
I'd love to see ma'am, I'm on the phone go deep.
I think that was an entry. It was a very last second entry. We put it in the play-in last year.
Oh, and it didn't do well?
It didn't quite make it. I think it made it past because it was just so new. The recency bias was there.
Here's my thing on ma'am, and then I'll get to Luis's thing. My feeling about drops generally, Albert knows this, is that the best drops are not only contextual, they're not only great and versatile, you can use them in a lot of different spots, you can drop them in a lot of places, but you can hear them clearly. One of the problems with Ma'am, I'm on the phone is it's a little harder to make out what he's saying. And I think that a drop like that only can go so far in March Madness. That's my pro tip to people who are going to be playing March Madness this year. If you don't know what a March Madness is, we'll explain it as he gets closer. Luis says, I want to put chit. I want to put $5 on chit to take it all in March Madness 2024. What are my odds? I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Feels like the odds on that might be...
Do I get a bonus if it wins?
I think you should get a suspension if it wins.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it goes the other way. So
you have to play the whole thing though. Chit, close the marky mouth.
Oh yeah, that is it is brutal. I out of generosity don't play that. Don't play the whole thing. But I mean,
you know what? I've had it with you today.
That's Kim also.
Yeah. You know what? I've had it with you today.
We'll have a Kim bracket this year, maybe.
Yeah, Kim could have her own bracket.
Yeah.
Right.
This thing has been dragging on and on and on.
That's her. That's another one from Kim.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
We'll assign days off or days of suspension per each one. So
here's another one from Kim.
That was like a cacophony of sound.
Yeah. I've got one from John Daly that should come in this year. I believe it is this one. Let me see if I can find it. I thought it was pretty good. I just haven't had a chance to really put it in the rotation.
I would say that's awesome, but that's not awesome.
So that's John Daly.
I would say that's awesome, but that's not awesome.
I feel like that could do well also.
Yeah.
What is this? You, sir, do not know what you're talking about. Is that a drop, Al? Al Anonymous is talking about?
Yeah, I
you,
think
sir, do not.
It's usually in the
sweepers,
in the rejoins, right?
I think it's you, sir. I think that's you, sir, are a liar.
You, sir, are a liar.
Not you, sir. You don't know what you're talking about.
Maybe that's Fauci.
You do not know what you are talking about.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, Al. That's it. That's Fauci. Yeah. You're right. And where are my witch smugglers at also? Anyway, those are a few of your favorites that will be coming back this season.
And of course, we kind of influence the vote because we use the same. I feel like we tend to use the same ones. So I feel like those ones are inherently more popular. So.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I mean,
I'm going to ding Albert
to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Yeah.
I'll ding Albert for inherently.
Oh, wow.
I know. And by the way, I will ding it. That is a rare Albert ding.
Oh,
for those of you who are just joining us, Albert does not get
like 4 years.
Yeah, Albert does not get a lot of dings. All right. Now, Kim did the Kimmel story. I'm glad she did.
Mm-hmm.
I will do this. If you're ready with a chunk, I'll have you cue it up. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a chunk of Trump.
Open wide.
Ready?
Here comes your chunk of Trump.
It's my favorite food.
With your first bite, here's Mark Thompson.
I have a feeling it's going to be beautiful.
Did Donald Trump accept a bribe? Order his FBI director to fake evidence? Tell the National Guard to kill critics? Sell nuclear secrets? Jack Smith is being awfully suggestive, according to this piece in the Daily Beast.
Here's the question. Would we be surprised by any of that? No.
He makes the case, as you know, Jack Smith does, that the former president shouldn't have vast immunity to commit crimes. He's compiled a very curious list of theoretical misdeeds that seem to telegraph potential bombshells at this upcoming D.C. trial. This from the Daily Beast. Accepting a bribe, ordering an FBI director to fake evidence against a political foe, ordering the military to murder critics, and even selling nuclear secrets to a foreign enemy, these are the particular and peculiar crimes that prosecutors say Trump could get away with, let's be clear about it, if he succeeds in arguing that presidential immunity gives him king-like powers to do as he pleases from the White House. Again, this is theoretical, okay? But Jack Smith is saying, if you give this guy bulletproof status, these are the things he can do. Quote, in each of these scenarios, the president could assert that he was simply executing the laws or communicating with the Department of Justice or discharging his powers as commander-in-chief or engaging in foreign diplomacy. These were all things that were written by prosecutors to appellate judges in the last few days. They used nearly identical phrasing in the court filing to the U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkin in October. So they're going back and forth, you know, ahead of this criminal trial in D.C. That's supposed to begin in March, and that's supposed to begin, I should remind you, on the eve of Super Tuesday. Trump's trying to put it off. He doesn't want it to happen during that period. His lawyers are openly complaining that the trial could interrupt his presidential campaign. We talked about this with David K. Johnston yesterday. And this stuff is all going to kind of be cresting, some of it, during the heat of the political season. Meanwhile, Jack Smith, the prosecutor, wants to start it as soon as possible. That would allow GOP voters choosing their top Republican candidate to see federal prosecutors finally laying out evidence that Trump broke the law by trying to overturn the 2020 election. Again, you may feel like it's not important. You may feel like, oh, I don't know. I've seen there, been there, done that. But the evidence being laid out would be a big deal. This is all from the Daily Beast to kind of remind readers of this piece that these are the specifics being offered by Jack Smith in relation to Donald Trump. But the D.C. appellate judges have to first consider issues like whether Trump can effectively render himself immune from criminal prosecution. That's why this is a big deal. He can justify everything he did as an official presidential act. So this is, again, something that David K. Johnston and others who are students of presidential politics, of Trump himself, of the law, all say is an absurdist notion, but it still hasn't been ruled upon in this case, right? So, again, this from the Jack Smith filing. The implications of the defendant's broad immunity theory are sobering. In his view, a court should treat a president's criminal conduct as immune from prosecution as long as it takes the form of correspondence with a state official about a matter in which there is a federal interest, a meeting with a member of the executive branch, or a statement on the matter of public concern. So these are just filed, these things that I'm reading to you. This has just been filed. So, again, George Conway, who, you know, the former husband of Kellyanne Conway, who's a lawyer and has been following a lot of this, says, interesting choice of hypotheticals. Meaning, is there evidence, or there might be evidence, I think the suggestion is, that Trump hinted at or tried to pull off some of this stuff that's in these, quote, hypotheticals. The critical decisions come now. I'm talking about judicial decisions. The fate of the trial is in the hands of Judges J. Michelle Childs, Karen LaCraft Henderson, and Florence Y. Pan. They haven't heard oral arguments yet, but they gave some indication that they plan to explore whether they might just kick the case right back to the trial judge. Or they can force Smith off the case entirely. This is an interesting argument, and they're scheduled to argue in court again next week. We will keep you posted. But the notion somehow that these hypotheticals reflect real behavior or a real perception on the part of Donald Trump that he should be able to do these things, it's scary. Yeah. That's your chunk of Trump.
That's it for this edition.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
But make sure to join us again next time.
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
For another chunk of Trump.
It bears mentioning that
The Mark Thompson Show.
This street takeover stuff, it's crazy. Did you see that in Compton, in Southern California, a bakery,
Right, that's what I was
ransacked.
thinking. Yeah.
I mean,
They
what
rushed right in and overtook this little bakery.
There's no money at a bakery, is there, Kim?
Makes you want free cupcakes.
I mean, it's absurd. Over 100 people did that. I think it's, what is that? I think it's a street takeover that's fun for teenagers or something. Is that what that is? Is that just, can I use the phrase juvenile delinquency, or, you know what I mean? Is it just to creating, it's crazy. It happened at 2:30 in the morning. Ruben's Bakery and Mexican Food, North Santa Fe Avenue in Los Angeles. Footage from outside the bakery shows a white Kia slamming into the entrance. Maybe you can rally the pictures, Albert, if you... it's Googleable. Cameras inside the store then show the suspects ransacking the business, where they allegedly took lottery tickets, cash, and merchandise. Oh, I forgot. You can get lottery tickets, yeah. They left behind a huge mess, a lot of damage. Deputies got calls for both the street takeover and the robbery. They found trash burning in the street in front of the bakery, and also the windows on the bakery smashed, burnt mattresses and Christmas trees. No arrests were made. The crowd scattered when law enforcement showed up. The car used to ram the bakery's entrance was left behind, and they will do a door knock with the registered owner to determine if it was stolen prior to the incident. Albert's putting the pictures up now. You can see it. They all go into this bakery and just ransack it, setting cars on fire, crashing into innocent victims. I don't know. None of it is waking anyone up, says the Compton City Council. It's a Compton resident, Cindy Enamorado. She was appearing at the Compton City Council and she made those comments. There is a sense, am I wrong, of this kind of entropic, sort of chaotic, bizarre, get away with anything attitude. We see it in the Bay Area a lot. I mean, we talk about the smash and grabs and all the rest, but look at this. I don't know. I don't know how you defend against it. I mean, as you know, I'm on these issues and things related to law and order, I'm pretty tough. I think there should be real time associated with this. You're arrested, you're going away.
The whole place ransacked. They slid over the counter. The place was inundated with kids.
Entropic is a ding word, says Tom. Tom is, if you're new, the keeper of the ding words. So I will ding entropic. You're right, of course it would be. There must be, Susan is right, like, why on earth does this keep happening? Very scary, and there are no consequences for these a-holes. I agree.
Because they can get away with it. That's why it keeps happening.
So you only need to arrest a handful of these people and have them doing real time, not club fed type time. Now, I understand this isn't a federal thing anyway, but you know what I'm saying, equivalent. Not a summer camp. You need to make examples of a handful, and guess what? It will stop. Yeah. Tom says a-holes is not a ding word. Thank you, Tom. I will ding that comment, though. Thank you. It's an American problem. Why here and nowhere else? That's an interesting question. I don't know. Is it an American problem? I mean, it's clearly an American problem in our major cities, but I don't know if it doesn't exist anywhere else. But maybe. But yeah, these guys have to do real time. That's the only answer in my view. But in any case, I had to share that with you because it's just so effed up, and I think it is a sign of the times.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It's also not as tough a question as it would seem, you know. The mugshot law in California is changing. Mugshots shared on social media by California law enforcement must use name and pronouns provided by the arrestee. Well, I'm sure glad we're getting on that.
What?
A new California law is getting more rules around the use of mugshots posted to law enforcement agencies' social media accounts. Police departments and sheriff's offices are going to have to include the name and pronouns provided by the person arrested when their mugshot is posted on the agency's social media accounts. It's AB 994, everybody. It limits the circumstances under which law enforcement can share a mugshot on social media. And it adds rules on the removal of new and existing mugshots from these sites.
So
it'll require what?
You can't keep a mugshot up for more than a certain amount of time.
Yeah. Well, it's
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Well, I guess they are going to start taking them down after a limited time. They'll be authorized to use other legal names or aliases if these will assist in detaining the individual. They have to lower any imminent threat to any individual or public safety. When booking a person after their arrest, law enforcement usually uses a person's name obtained from legal documents like birth certificate, driver's license, government ID. But the new rules say when the person's mugshot is posted on social media, you got to put them up the way they want to be put up. And as Kim was saying, the new law limits local law enforcement from posting a mugshot to their social media accounts if the person is accused of a non-violent crime, unless any of the following apply. Unless this will aid in the capture of the person, there's an existing threat to others, or a judge orders the release of the image. And
so basically, we can't just have the mugshot anymore to poke fun at the person.
Well, you poke fun at them, Kim, because I don't know why you do it, but you do. I don't approve of it. But you poke fun of them.
Kim, how are you?
I do it as a part of the story. They were arrested, and it's a part of the story.
Yeah.
But the new law requires that California agencies remove all mugshots from social media accounts within 14 days.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
Yeah. And that accused group has 14 days that they got to live with their mugshots up, but after that, they take them down.
So we can keep showing mugshots from Florida, but not California.
Well, you got 14 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after the arrest, you can show it, but you've got after 14 days, you got to take it down.
Yeah.
So I mean that's the way it is, Kim. You don't like it, maybe you should vote in some new leadership, or write a strongly worded email, or chit them.
Nothing.
Yeah. How would this affect Friday Fabulous Florida's? Again, it shouldn't have any effect on Friday Fabulous Florida. Right. Everybody seems quite concerned with how it's going to affect Friday Fabulous Florida.
And we usually get to the stories within those 14 days.
Yes, we are very much on top of it when I say we. Albert curates Friday Fabulous Florida.
This law concerns California mugshots only.
Precisely. Yeah. Well said, Kim. Thank you. Albert, before I wrap up, I want to offer
the Mark Thompson Show.
People tune in for my inspirational message at the end of the show, which usually involves calling out members of the show who haven't performed well.
Uh-oh.
And
did we do that at the beginning of the show?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of mediocre work on this show, and now we're going to add the end. So, Luis... I'm sorry, this is B.A. Ware on a super chat. I'm campaigning for our guiding concept of 2024, intellectual humility, the acceptance that one's beliefs and opinions could be wrong. Wow.
What?
I applaud that. I think any reasonable dialogue does involve the acceptance that what you're saying and what you believe might be incorrect, might not be right.
I completely disagree.
Well, Kim is the one who this message is clearly directed toward.
I was thinking it was directed toward you. That's so interesting that you would say
because
that.
the arrogance with which Kim tries to call me out.
Fantastic.
And then she has to go back to Google, Albert, as she has already twice today, to realize that I'm right.
Stop picking on Brett.
Oh, well, Brett's not around anymore, so now I've got Kim. It's outrageous what I put up with on this show. But I do thank you for that. Be aware. Thank you for the $5 super chat, too. It's a big shout out.
Big shout out.
We're a crowdfunded show, so that really does help us. And I do want to, and I have it all show, mention, and if you put it up there, Albert, that would be helpful, that Patreon and PayPal are way live, and a couple of people have increased their monthly support to us, and it makes such a big difference. I mean, we were talking before about, and we're kind of joking around about people making money and on the show, trying to pay people what they deserve and paying them more. And that all is made possible by your contributions. So if you want to support the show, visit themarkthompsonshow.com. Click the Patreon or PayPal links to get to contributions. I'll actually be shouting out thanks to several people who have been with us for a long time and some new people as well, both on Patreon and PayPal. PayPal is a great way to support us as well. Those links, as I say, at themarkthompsonshow.com. And also super chats and super stickers. That really does help us, and it makes a huge, huge difference to the show. So thank you for that. We'll have more about that and more about those people who have stepped up their monthly contributions as we continue. Tomorrow, I've got a pretty great show planned. Tomorrow you have Belinda Weymouth, David Katz, who I want to weigh in on a lot of the Trump stuff and beyond. Also, the new abortion ruling in Texas. I'd like to get him opining on the realities as that's a template to other states as well. And there's something else happening tomorrow. We're trying to get Heather Knight on also.
Okay.
So, because I mentioned the show at the beginning of the show that she's got a front page story of the New York Times. She's now the New York Times based, San Francisco based writer. So that's pretty cool as well. So Albert, you're working on that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I wrap up, I do want to see if there's any new business that I have to...
The Mark Thompson
Show.
Or
old business. Opining is a ding word, says Tom. And is it? I guess it is. All right. Having Mark back is feeling my batteries charging to 85%. Oh,
nice.
Thank you. Thank you. That's not bad. The considering both sides of arguments is something that people are emphasizing in our chat right now. Kim, it's kind of sweet to see everybody coming together for a kumbaya moment here at the end of the show. Andrew Peters looks like he's not going to be one of those guys who,
No.
right? Andrew Peters is really, he's a jihadist. He wants it all the way, man. Yeah. Cannot fire for pot smoking, have to use preferred gender. The state's become a joke. Andrew Peters. Wow. Tough dude. That'd be a long car ride.
Where are my weed smokers at?
You know who needs weed? Andrew Peters needs weed. That's what's going on. I'm just saying, Andrew, mellow out a little bit in the new year, brother. That's all I'm saying. So tomorrow it's Belinda with It's the Planet Stupid. David Katz on the law. We'll try to rally Heather Knight, potentially. She'll be coming up. Or we'll have some sort of story about why we can't get her. One of the two, right? Albert, you'll have, Albert, great to have you here in the flesh, brother.
Albert, thank you.
Yeah. And Kim, your big show is coming up next.
Kim, how are you?
It's the one that you save your energy for.
Oh,
The
come
one
on.
you really bring 100%. The After Party Live.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
They're doing it with John Daly over there on the After Party Live channel. So
You
check
are
that out.
outrageous.
Happy New Year! I'm loving this show to the New Year. I've never felt better about
I'm
it.
Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thanks for the thumbs up. Thanks for sharing the show. Thanks
Out
for
of time.
supporting
Bye-bye.
the show. And until tomorrow.